I first noticed the time when the clock on my phone changed from 1:59 to 2 a.m. and my entire body locked in place, not from fear, but from something far worse. Paralysis. My eyes were the only things that moved, darting around the room as every instinct in me screamed to run, to scream, to do anything, but I couldn't even twitch a finger. I was wide awake, absolutely conscious, and pinned to the bed like some invisible weight held me there. The only sound in the room was the electric hum of the ceiling fan above, slicing through the still Arkansas night like a blade, over and over again. And then I saw it. There was a figure standing in the doorway. No, not standing, it was shifting. Pulsing. Like it was made of fog, barely able to hold itself in the shape of a man. It never stepped into the light, but I could see just enough to know it wasn't right. It looked stretched, like its arms were a little too long and its head tilted at an unnatural angle, jerking like a marionette suspended from tangled strings. I couldn't see a face, just that sickening blur of motion like a smear on glass you keep trying to wipe away, but it's inside the pain itself. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. I tried to move. Not even a tremor. The figure stayed there for what felt like hours, twitching in and out of itself, until I blinked and it was gone. Just gone. The second it disappeared, I gasped and lurched upward, able to move again like a spell had been broken. It's been 4 weeks now, and this happens every single night. Exactly 2 a.m. And the worst part? I know it's not a dream because I leave my phone recording every night now. And at 2 a.m. every single recording goes blank for exactly 1 minute and 13 seconds, pure blackness and dead silence, before returning like nothing happened. I moved to this old house in rural Arkansas after the divorce. It was cheap, in a good neighborhood just outside Fayetteville, and something about its creaking floors and heavy windows felt safe, like it had its own history I could step into. I needed that, a fresh start, something to pour myself into. I didn't mind the smell of wood rot or the ancient wallpaper that peeled in the corners like it was shedding some older skin. It felt honest. But now I'm starting to think something was waiting for me here. The first few nights, I convinced myself it was stress. Moving, unpacking, adjusting to a new life alone after 9 years of marriage. I brushed it off as exhaustion until the dreams began. Not dreams, exactly. More like episodes. I'd wake up gasping at the same time, 2 a.m., and not be able to move. I'd lie there helpless as that thing appeared in the doorway, never closer, never farther, just there. Watching. I stopped sleeping in the master bedroom after the second week. The paralysis followed me to the guest room. Then the couch. I even tried sleeping in my car once, windows cracked open, but I still woke up at exactly 2 a.m., frozen stiff, eyes wide open, staring at the shadowy outline of something just outside the fogged-up window. During the day, I feel mostly normal, a little groggy, unfocused, like I'm permanently jet-lagged, but every time I see a doorway, I expect to see it standing there. Shifting. Waiting. The house itself doesn't help. It changes. Subtly. Doors I swear I left open or closed in the morning. The hallway outside my bedroom feels slightly longer some nights. Once, the coat closet near the front door was an inch wider than it had been the night before. I measured. And the attic? I don't go up there anymore. Not since I heard breathing behind the hatch when I walked underneath it last Tuesday. I keep trying to be rational. I tell myself it's sleep paralysis, a known, documented thing. I've read all about it. But then I remember how the lights dim every night at exactly 1:59. Just a flicker, almost imperceptible, as though the entire house is bracing for something. And I can't stop thinking about the basement door. It's sealed shut with thick nails, at least a dozen, maybe more. I found it on the second day, tucked behind a curtain that wasn't there during the open house. There's no key. No handle. Just a warped wooden door covered in long, vertical scratches as if something tried desperately to get out. The real estate agent told me the house was built in 1907 but couldn't tell me anything about the previous owners. Said the records were lost in a flood. I didn't push it at the time. I should have, because something in this house wakes up at 2 a.m. and it knows I'm here. I've started sleeping with the lights on, though it doesn't change anything. At 1:59 a.m. they always flicker once, a stuttering, quick pulse like the house is drawing in a breath, and then I'm paralyzed. No matter where I am, no matter how prepared I think I am, it takes me. I've tried sleeping sitting up, with coffee in my system, with music playing in headphones, even with a camera pointed directly at me on a timer. It doesn't matter. The second that minute hand reaches 12, I lose control. And that thing is always there. Never moving forward, never stepping closer. But sometimes it's not in the doorway. Sometimes it's in the corner of the room, just far enough that I can't make out its full shape. And it's changing. It used to blur like a heat wave. Now it glitches like it's repeating itself, twitching in and out of frames that shouldn't be there. I started logging the episodes. Time, temperature, location, duration. But something I noticed last night disturbed me more than I can explain. It was the sound. I had turned on an old handheld recorder and left it running under my pillow just to see if it picked up anything I couldn't. When I played it back in the morning, there was static during the blackout period like always, but layered underneath it, barely audible, was the soft, deliberate sound of breathing. Rhythmic. Not mine. Slower. Too slow. And at the 43-second mark, something whispered, "Under the house." Not in the house. Not behind you. Under. I sat at the kitchen table all morning just listening to that one moment on loop. Over and over, the whisper returned, always at the exact same second, like it was burned into the recording itself. Under the house. That's when I went back to the basement door. It's hidden behind a sagging linen curtain in the hallway just beyond the laundry nook, a spot that never felt right, even in the daytime. The floorboards around it are softer, like something beneath them has hollowed out the dirt, and the air back there always smells like mildew and copper. I hadn't touched the door since discovering it on move-in day, but now I couldn't ignore it. I got a hammer and a flashlight. I told myself I was doing it for closure, for peace of mind. I think part of me already knew the truth, that I wasn't just opening an old basement. I was letting something back in. The nails came out easier than I expected. They looked old, oxidized, like they'd been hammered in a long, long time ago, maybe even before the drywall was finished. When I pulled the last one free, the door swung open on its own with a deep, breathless creak. The darkness behind it felt thick, not just black but solid, like stepping into it would mean being devoured by something that had been starving for decades. I stood at the threshold, shining my light down into the yawning hole below. The stairs were stone, uneven, and wet with condensation. No handrail. Just a descending tunnel into what looked like pure void. The flashlight flickered. Just once. But it was enough to send something crawling up my spine, like the idea of a scream trying to find its way out before anything happened. Then I heard it again. Not from the recorder this time, from the stairwell itself. Whispered from the dark like someone exhaling directly into my ear, "Come down." I didn't. I slammed the door, re-nailed it shut in a blind panic, and put a heavy dresser in front of it. I don't remember moving it there. One minute I was hammering, the next it was already pushed into place, blocking the entire hallway. I don't think I blinked the whole time. That night, the paralysis came earlier. At 1:53. The entity didn't appear in the doorway this time. It was crouched by the foot of my bed, trembling like a barely contained glitch in a corrupted video file. I could see more of it now, arms bent in wrong angles, neck too long, face like a smear of features that refused to settle into anything human. It didn't move. It just watched, tilting its head side to side like a broken metronome. And for the first time it made a sound. Not a word. A clicking. Dry, sharp, almost eager. Like fingernails tapping on glass, building in pace until it sounded like 100 tiny bones rattling together. It stopped when my eyes started to water, as if it had gotten what it wanted. A reaction. When it vanished, I found a small splinter of wood lying on my chest. I recognized it instantly. It was from the basement door. I haven't gone near that hallway since. I sleep in the living room now, upright in a chair with every light on. But the entity still finds me. Still shows up when the clock hits 2 o'clock. Every night, a little closer. And I can feel it trying to learn me, the way it watches, how it moves, how it adjusts its form, like it's trying to wear a shape I'll recognize. A face I'll trust. I don't know what's buried under this house, but I think it knows me now. I stopped using mirrors about a week ago. I didn't cover them, didn't smash them, I just avoid them. Turn them toward the wall, tilt them down, slide them into closets and drawers. All of it. Because the last time I looked into one, I saw something standing behind me, and it wasn't me. It happened the morning after the thing first crouched at the foot of my bed. I remember sitting in the bathroom, half-dressed, trying to breathe normally, pretending I could still have a normal day. I hadn't slept, not really. Just laid there, terrified and waiting for that invisible pressure to lift so I could move again. My mouth still tasted like metal. I leaned forward over the sink to splash water on my face. The bathroom mirror was a rectangle fogged slightly around the corners. I hadn't looked directly at it in days, but that morning I slipped. Just for a second. And that was enough. In the reflection, I saw my own face, drawn and pale, and just behind my shoulder I saw another face. Only it wasn't a face. It was an impression of one. Blurry. Incomplete. Like someone had taken a photograph and crumpled it, then tried to smooth it back out. The eyes were just dark voids too low on the face. The mouth was open, but it didn't move, just gaped like a silent scream trapped inside fogged glass. And the moment I turned around, heart pounding in my chest, there was nothing behind me. Just the cold, damp tile. But when I looked back at the mirror, the face was still there. Only now it was closer. I stumbled out of the bathroom and didn't go back for 2 days. Since then, I've been noticing changes in myself, not just physically, but mentally, subtly, in ways I can't fully describe. It's like my thoughts aren't all mine anymore. Sometimes when I zone out, I find myself standing in rooms I don't remember walking into, holding objects I never picked up, staring at the same spot on the wall for minutes on end, swearing I hear someone whispering my name just under the threshold of human hearing. There's something else too. The house, it's reacting to me. That's the only way I can explain it. The more afraid I become, the more present it feels. The air gets thicker. Time moves slower. The temperature in certain rooms drops 10, sometimes 15 degrees, even with the heat on. I bought a small thermometer to be sure. I've documented it all. But no matter how much proof I collect, no one believes me. I called my brother last Thursday hoping I could stay with him for a few nights. I kept my voice calm, casual, told him I was just a little overwhelmed from the move. But as soon as I mentioned the house, he went quiet. After a long pause, he said, "Is this about the thing you used to see when we were kids?" That stopped me cold. Because I hadn't told anyone about what I saw back then. Not once. When I was 8 years old, I used to have this recurring night terror. I'd wake up paralyzed, staring at the silhouette of something tall and crooked at the end of my bed. Every time I blinked, it would be in a new position, closer, crawling, contorting. I called it the copy man because its face looked like a smeared version of mine, like someone had copied me but didn't get the details right. I'd scream as soon as I could move. My parents thought I was just a scared kid. Eventually, the dreams stopped. Or so I thought. Until my brother said those words. He remembered. He told me that on more than one occasion he saw it too, standing just outside my door at night, staring into my room through the cracked hallway light. He said he always thought it was a dream, or sleepwalking, or some kid's imagination rubbing off on him. But now, after hearing my voice, he wasn't so sure. He asked me not to call again. Not until I figured out what this is. I don't blame him. That night, the paralysis came at 1:47 a.m. The thing didn't appear in the room. Instead, the house went silent. Not quiet dead. I couldn't even hear the wind outside or the ticking of the old kitchen clock. The air pressed down on me, heavy as water, and I realized the room was too dark. Even with the hallway light on, the edges of the room bled into pitch black, like the shadows were creeping in. And then, a shape. Just barely visible at the edge of the dark. Not in the doorway this time, not even in the room, but inside the mirror across from me. A shape watching from behind the glass. Only it was me. My body. My face. But wrong. Slightly warped. Like it had been staring too long and forgot how to look normal. The eyes were too still. The smile was too wide. And when it lifted its hand to wave at me, I didn't move. It waved again. I didn't move. But I swear I felt my own hand twitch. It's getting harder to tell what's real. That might sound like something you'd say for dramatic effect, but I mean it in the most literal way possible. Things inside the house, they've started to change when I'm not looking. Small things at first. The rug in the hallway flipped the wrong direction. A picture frame that used to hold a photo of my parents now filled with a grainy, gray smear like an undeveloped Polaroid. Even the calendar on the wall, dates crossed out that I didn't mark, numbers that don't belong to any known month. But it was the new room that convinced me something was truly, irreversibly wrong. I'd just come out of the kitchen, late afternoon, trying to stay awake with too much caffeine and not enough food. The sun was setting in that ugly, coppery way it does in the winter, casting long shadows through the dusty blinds. I turned to head toward the living room and saw a door. At the end of the hallway where there had never been a door before. It was plain, white, and slightly cracked open as if someone had just stepped inside. I stood there for a long time, just staring, the skin on my arms tightening with goosebumps. Every part of me screamed to not open it. So naturally, I did. The door creaked slowly, revealing a narrow, windowless room I had never seen before. No furniture. No lights. Just 4 blank walls and an ancient-looking rotary phone mounted to the far corner. The floorboards groaned as I stepped in, and the instant both feet crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind me. The phone started ringing. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. It just kept ringing. No light, no wind, no hum of electricity. Just the shrill, mechanical ring echoing off empty walls. I approached it slowly, one hand shaking as I reached for the receiver. The moment my fingers brushed the cord, the ringing stopped. The silence that followed wasn't comforting, it was worse. It was waiting. Then the voice came through. But it wasn't from the phone. It was behind me. Very close. "You're wearing the wrong face." I spun around and the room was dark. Completely, suffocatingly dark. My hands scraped the wall until I found the door, but there was no knob. No handle. Just blank wood. I slammed my fists against it, called out, pleaded, and after what felt like minutes, maybe hours, the door opened behind me on its own. I stumbled out into the hallway. The door was gone. Just blank wall. I stood there, shaking, unable to process what had happened. The hallway looked normal again, but everything after that began to feel off, like the house had adjusted to something new. Or something had adjusted me. That night, the paralysis didn't come at 2 o'clock. It didn't come at all. Instead, I passed out early from exhaustion and woke up at 4:23 a.m. completely alone and whole. For a moment, I thought maybe it was over. Maybe the cycle had broken, or maybe the room had taken whatever it needed and left me in peace. I sat up, stretched, checked my phone. One new video. I don't remember recording anything. My phone was on the desk, untouched. But the timestamp read 2 a.m. to 2:03. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the play button, and finally pressed it. The video showed my bedroom from the corner, like the camera had been propped up on the shelf. I was lying in bed, motionless, eyes wide open. At exactly 2 o'clock, the lights flickered and cut to black. The video did not cut. It kept recording in perfect blackness, except for one thing. There was movement. Barely visible, but there. Something unfolded itself from the wall beside the bed, slow and deliberate, like a spider easing its legs out of a hole. Frame by frame, it emerged, long-limbed, blurry, twitching. The same shifting figure that had haunted me for weeks. But this time, it leaned down over me. Not touching. Just hovering inches above my frozen face. Then it mimicked me. Moved its head the same way I did. Blinked with my rhythm. Opened its mouth when I did. And then it whispered something the mic barely picked up. "You're getting better." At 2:03, it slipped backward into the wall and disappeared. I don't remember dreaming that. I don't remember anything. But now, when I look in the mirror, the rare times I allow myself to, I swear something is slightly wrong. Like my reflection is a half-second behind me. Or the eyes aren't quite mine. Or maybe, just maybe, I didn't wake up alone that night. Maybe something else woke up with me. The air in the house has changed. It sounds ridiculous, but it's real, I can feel it. The space is heavier now, like it's pressing in from all sides. Even during the day, light doesn't settle the way it used to. Shadows hang too long. Corners feel deeper. It's like the house is stretching, not physically, but in some deeper, older way. Like it's waking up from something. Or remembering what it used to be. I haven't left in 3 days. Not because I can't. I just don't trust what's outside anymore. I started seeing the figure during the day now in reflections mostly. Not just in mirrors, in windows, stainless steel, the screen of my turned-off TV. Always in the periphery. Always watching. Sometimes I catch it standing behind me in those darkened surfaces, its shape rippling like a flag underwater. Once I blinked and the TV turned on by itself, showing static and faint breathing over the speakers. I didn't move. I just sat there and let it happen. I think part of me wanted to see what it would do if I didn't resist. That night, maybe the worst one yet, the sleep paralysis didn't come in the usual way. I didn't feel the weight. I wasn't frozen. Instead, I simply woke up standing in the hallway, barefoot and shivering, facing the boarded-up basement door. Only it wasn't boarded up anymore. The dresser I'd shoved in front of it had been moved, the nails pulled free, each one laid out neatly on the floor in a perfect circle around my feet. The door hung open just a crack, and a thin line of complete blackness spilled out onto the wood floor like ink. It didn't move. It didn't ripple. It just was. I looked down and realized I was holding something in my right hand. A small, old-fashioned key. I don't know where it came from, or why it was wet. I didn't go down. Not that time. I backed away step by step until the hallway swallowed itself behind me. The next morning, I checked the door again. Nailed shut. No key. No circle of nails. No sign it had ever been opened. But the real proof, the terrifying proof, came that afternoon. I went into the attic. There's a pull-down ladder in the ceiling just above the guest room. I'd ignored it since moving in, mostly out of fear, partially out of common sense. But something told me I had to look. I can't explain why. It wasn't curiosity. It was more like a memory being dragged to the surface, like part of me already knew what was up there. The attic was empty, save for one thing. A chair. Old, wooden, missing one leg, propped carefully upright in the middle of the attic floor. On it sat a photograph, yellowed and curling at the edges, placed in a dusty, cracked frame. It was a picture of me. Not recent. Not from any time I remember. I looked younger, maybe 9, maybe 10, but the background behind me wasn't any place I'd ever lived. A narrow hallway. Peeling wallpaper. A door behind me, half open, with something blurry and tall in the shadows just beyond. My face in the photo was pale. Eyes wide. Like I knew something was behind me but was too afraid to turn. On the back of the photo, in pencil, were 4 words written in a trembling hand: "She came in first." I don't know what that means, or who it refers to, but that same day I found something else, an old newspaper clipping, folded and stuffed inside the hallway vent near the floorboards. It was brittle, almost crumbling in my hands, but I could make out enough to recognize the headline. Local family vanishes in historic home, no signs of forced entry. The article was dated August 2, 1974. The photo showed the same house. Same porch. Same warped siding. Different windows, but the bones were unmistakable. The family was never found. No suspects. No evidence. Just one quote from a neighbor that made my skin crawl. I saw the little girl in the window that night, but it wasn't her face looking back. I should have left. Then. Right then. But I didn't. Because something in me needed to know. I needed to understand what this thing wanted, why it had chosen me, why it mimicked me, why it watched. So that night, when the clock hit 2 a.m., I didn't close my eyes. I lay still, staring directly at the doorway. And for the first time, it entered the room. It didn't walk. It didn't float. It simply became. Like it unfolded from the shadows, rising from its own absence. It had a form now, almost human, skin made of shifting static, face still half-formed, always almost mine. It stopped beside the bed and tilted its head, studying me. And then it spoke again. But this time, it didn't use words. It opened its mouth and my voice came out. My exact voice. And it said, "You left me there." I don't know how to describe the sound of your own voice accusing you of something you don't remember doing. It doesn't come across like an echo. It doesn't feel like mimicry. It feels intentional. Like someone took your throat, hollowed it out, and filled it with something ancient, something with memory, but no form. You left me there. That's what it said. My voice. My tone. My rhythm. But I've never left anyone anywhere. At least, not that I remember. I haven't slept since that night. Not really. I've tried. I've taken sleeping pills, poured whiskey into my tea, left white noise machines running in every room. But something won't let me fall. Just when I feel myself slipping, I hear it, the clicking. That same dry, mechanical rhythm, like fingernails tapping on the inside of glass. And then the image flashes behind my eyes, not a nightmare, not a dream, just the face. My face. Almost. It's following me now. In the house, of course. That much I expected. But now I see it in places I shouldn't. I catch it in the turned-off screen of my phone. The reflection in a puddle outside. Once, I saw it in the glass of a microwave at the grocery store, just standing behind me, head tilted, arms twitching slightly like it was trying to hold still. I walked out of the store without buying anything. The rooms in the house have started rearranging themselves. That sounds insane, I know. But I've mapped it. I took chalk and drew marks on the floor, every doorway, every hallway length. And over the course of 3 nights, things began to shift. Subtle at first. A wall an inch farther out. A window slightly too high. And then the bathroom door disappeared completely. Just smooth drywall where it used to be. I found the bathroom again 2 days later. On the second floor. There is no second floor in this house. At least, there wasn't. The stairs appeared the next morning, a spiral staircase I swear didn't exist before. It smelled like rust and mold, and when I stepped onto the first creaking stair, the light bulbs in the living room shattered behind me, one by one, like gunshots in a cave. I didn't go up, but something came down. I heard it at 2 a.m. sharp. I was in the hallway sitting on the floor with every light I could find burning, candles and lamps and flashlights in a desperate circle around me. And then came the sound of something slow and deliberate descending with step by step. Not human. Too steady. Too patient. When I dared to look, I didn't see feet. I saw hands. Two pale, long-fingered hands gripping the edges of the staircase, slowly pulling something down that didn't quite fit the angles of the house. Like it had too many joints. Like it had to bend in places we weren't meant to bend. I closed my eyes and whispered to myself. I said, "This isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real." But then something whispered back. "Then why did you build it?" The next day, I found a journal in the wall. Behind a loose panel in the guest room closet, tucked between insulation and old newspapers. Its cover was leather, cracked and darkened with age. Inside were pages, brittle, handwritten in ink that had bled through over time. I recognized the handwriting. It was mine. The entries were dated nearly 40 years ago. July 1985. Over and over again, I'd written about the house. About the entity. About the mirror reflections and the basement and the door that only appears at night. The name Copyman showed up several times. The final entry simply read, "If it finds a way in, it will wear me like a memory. Lock the door. Burn the mirrors. Do not sleep." I don't remember writing any of this. I wasn't even born in 1985. At least, I think I wasn't. That night, I boarded up the windows. All of them. I duct taped over every reflective surface. I unplugged every screen, and I sat in the center of the living room watching the shadows slide across the walls like oil. And when 2 a.m. came, I didn't freeze. This time I moved first. I stood up, heart pounding, and turned to face the hallway. The entity was there, as always blurry, shifting, face rippling like static on an old TV. But this time it was closer than ever. Only a few steps away. I could see its body trying to hold a shape, bones rearranging in slow, glitching spasms like it was still learning how to be. And then it spoke again. But this time, the voice wasn't mine. It was my brother's. "I saw you in the mirror when we were kids," it said. "But that wasn't you, was it?" The thing that wore my brother's voice just stood there, shifting and stuttering like it was caught between frames of a film someone tried to burn. Its head twitched slightly with each word it spoke, and I could hear the crackle behind the voice, like old cassette tape unraveling in reverse. But what it said next froze me more than any paralysis ever could. "You brought me here. You left the door open." There's no way that's true. I don't remember ever doing anything like that. But something in its tone wasn't accusatory. It was matter-of-fact, like it was just stating what always was. And I realized then that I couldn't even remember the first night I moved into the house. Not truly. I remember the boxes. I remember the cold. But the night itself? The first time I turned off the lights? The first dream I had in this place? It's just gone. I was wrong when I thought this all started after I moved in. I think I was already inside it. I think maybe I always have been. That's when the walls began to hum, not audibly but with pressure, like the bones of the house were vibrating beneath the drywall. The lights flickered once and then went completely dark. But it wasn't blackness I saw. It was depth. Endless, ink-like tunnels opening behind the familiar angles of my home. Beneath the floorboards. Behind the closets. Between the spaces where rooms should touch but don't. I turned toward the hallway and saw it, a mirror. One I had removed. One I had buried under a sheet and stuffed into the crawl space. Now it stood upright, leaning against the far wall, perfectly clean. In its reflection, I wasn't alone. There were two of me. The one on the left stared with that vacant, glassy look I'd come to recognize in the figure, head cocked slightly, lips parted like it hadn't yet learned what expressions were for. The one on the right, me, presumably, looked different. Tired. Hollow-eyed. The kind of hollow that goes all the way down to the soul. And both were watching me, the one who stood in front of the mirror, like I was the reflection now. And for the first time, I felt it clearly. This thing hadn't been trying to haunt me. It was trying to replace me. Piece by piece. It studied my movements because it was learning them. It mimicked my voice because it was rehearsing. It pulled thoughts I barely remembered from childhood, slipped into cracks in memory I didn't know existed, wore my fears like a costume until I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between it and me. And now I couldn't. The mirror went dark. Then the world followed. I don't remember blacking out, but I must have. Because when I woke up, I was outside the house, standing on the porch barefoot, covered in dust. My phone was in my hand, open to the front-facing camera. Recording. The video showed me staring into the lens, completely motionless, lips twitching into a smile every few seconds before falling slack again. Like I couldn't quite remember how to be. The video went on for 6 minutes. Nothing changed. Just that flickering, broken version of me swaying slightly on the porch. I watched it over and over again, and I still don't remember filming it. The house has gone silent since then. No more 2 a.m. paralysis. No more shifting shapes or mirrors that reflect wrong. No more voice at all. But that's what scares me most. Because silence in this place doesn't mean peace. It means something is done. Sometimes I catch myself doing little things differently, reaching for doors with my left hand instead of my right. Leaving the faucet running for exactly 13 seconds. Humming a tune I don't remember ever learning. Once I answered my phone and didn't recognize the sound of my own voice when I said hello. And last night I passed a storefront window downtown and the reflection didn't blink when I did. It just smiled. I'm writing this now not as a warning and not even as a plea for help. I'm not sure who this message is for, but I think deep down, I know what's happening. I'm not afraid of the thing anymore, because I don't think it's outside of me now. I think it's inside. And sometimes late at night when I catch my reflection looking back, I wonder, which one of us is pretending now?